Okay. I hope we are live now. Yes, we are. Okay. So again, very good evening to all of you. Right? A very warm welcome. So today is the final day of this bootcamp, and we're going to start with a good project. Before that, right, we are going to cover something called as exception handling. Right. Okay. Before we get started with today's class, uh, I hope we all are clear about the concepts we have covered in the 4 days, right? Just give me a second. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I hope the topics that we've covered in the previous 4 days are clear to you, and I really hope that you guys are practicing and uh, doing your assignments also, right? You're part of work, right? Because as I say, your part of the work needs to be done by you. Right? We are just there to help you, to guide you, to make you understand the concepts. But it's up to you how you practice and how you get used to these things, right? Okay. Just give me a second, guys. Just give me a second. Okay. So without wasting much time, okay. Sir, I have marked attendance. So yeah, okay, you can mark the attendance. That's okay. Okay. So let me just share my screen, right, and let's just start. Just let me know if my screen is visible. Okay. Not right now. I think now it must be visible. Yeah. Yes, sir. We all are excited for today, right? We're going to make a good project. Now it's visible. Perfect. 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 Awesome. Sure then. ठीक है. Sure. So let me open this Excel drawer, and we are here. ठीक है. Okay. Uh, Just give me a second. There's something wrong with my laptop today. Just give me a second. Yeah, today, Jesh, I'll upload all the codes on GitHub and I'll provide you the codes. Right? Don't worry about that. That's why we have been writing codes, right? So that I can provide you with day wise. So I will do that. I have that in mind. Okay, awesome. So now, before starting, there's one concept that is left, right? That was to be done on yesterday's class, and that is nothing but called as exceptional handling. Okay. Now, I'll tell you, right? There are there are errors that could come into your code. Right? By errors, I mean bugs. Right? There are bugs that occur non-intentionally. Obviously, bugs, we don't want to have bugs in our program, right? But sometimes what happens is, not there's a very famous thing, right? Not everything is perfect in this world. Not everything is perfect. So what happens, in order to handle those bugs, the way you handle errors, the way you handle bugs, this technique of handling bugs is nothing but called as exception handling. Exceptions are nothing but, you can consider them as exceptions in your programs, right? Let's suppose you want to apply for a driving license, and the minimum age for driving license is 18 years, or let's take an hypothetical example, let's suppose 24 years. Okay? And I want to make sure that if someone who is less than 24, cannot have access to apply, not apply. Whereas if any individual age is greater, then we can apply to DL. Right? So the way you handle these exceptions, right? The way you handle these cases is nothing but called as error handling or exception handling. It's nothing rocket science. We don't use it much because there are other ways to tackle this, right? Exception handling is used in mostly in programming languages like Java and JS. But since C++ also has this feature of handling the exceptions, we're just looking at it like how it looks like. What do you mean by throw block, catch block, and things like that? So what I'll do here is I'll just make a folder. I'll say today is day 5, right? So I'll day 5.c++, and I'll quickly make the boilerplate. I hope we all know what boilerplate is and what shortcut do we use to apply for a boilerplate. Right now, I'll take a same example of a driving license. First of all, I'll have an age, right? Let's suppose initially I want to keep the age as 20. Right? Now, there is something called as a try block. Now, what is a try block? Try block gives you the flexibility to try out things, right? As the name suggests, try out. It says that okay, you try out a thing out, you try some cases out. If that is okay, well and good, I'll provide you the result. But if that is not okay, if the condition is not met, if let's suppose you have a bug in the program, let's suppose if you divide anything by 0, right? That's not that throw a compilation error, right? So you try your logic out. If it works, well and good. If it does not work, I'll provide a way to throw an error to you. Right? So what I'll do here is I'll have a try block. I'll say, okay, just try some things out. I have a try block. I'll say if, right, if age is less than 18, or chalo, let's give it 24 here. If age is less than 24, right? Now, what do you need to do? Just see out you don't. Let me give the case of greater than here. I'll give it an else block, right? If age is greater than or equal to 24, I'll say you have the access to apply to DL, right? Why is this thing coming here? Okay, this is a try block and this is the okay, right? And if I try it out in else case, if let's suppose the age is not greater than 84, now I'll use a very important keyword. I'll say throw the age. And if I throw the age, right, if I throw the age, I need to catch it somewhere. So here I'll say if the age is less, if the condition or criteria is not met, I'll catch it in this block, right? I'll catch the age and I'll just say cout, you're not eligible to, okay, let's suppose this example as suggested by GitHub Copilot. You're not eligible to boot, and also we'll close the brackets here. Okay, not eligible, and also I'll see out the age, right? And lastly, if you want to, since it is an int main function, it is optional. If you want to, you can return 0 from here. Clear, everyone? What have we done till now? I have an age. I just want to check whether I'm eligible for a deal or not, right? And let's try to run it out. And currently, if I run the code out, let's see if we have any errors. Okay, it says that you are not eligible to apply for a DL because you're only 20 years old, right? Now, as a result, what happens here is now, I've set the age as 20, right? And this age is obviously, right, I'm not eligible to vote because it is not meeting this criteria. So it is coming to the else block. It is throwing the error. You throw the error. They say that okay, this is not the condition I want to, just throw it out. I don't want to use it in the program. As simple as that. You're throwing the error, and catch is a block that will cache the error and it will help you display out what you want to display there. There are multiple ways to. There are multiple functions in catch. You can throw exception. You can throw arithmetic errors, exception errors, things like that. We'll not go into depth, but the formula, the basic fundamental of try block is to try some things out so that you can. If you think that okay, it might throw an error, so you have to include it in try block. As simple as that. Then you have the throw block. If things are not met in try block, you'll throw the error out, and the catch block will catch the error. As simple as that. As the name suggests, try block, get the errors. If you have any, throw the errors. If you have any errors, cache to get that error. Right? Is it clear, everyone? Try, catch, and throw. So this is what it is about. And you can also use it in cases like, let's suppose you have a number. You want to divide a number by 0. And let's suppose the user enters the user wants to divide it by 0, right? The user wants to divide it by 0, but again it will throw in compilation error. But you want the I don't want the compiler to throw me the compilation error. I'll handle it myself, right? I'll handle it myself maybe. So if I want to handle any error myself, then I use and throw. Then I use a try and catch block. So we can do a very good question pointed out by Ayush. He says that, okay, sir, we can implement the same thing using if-else statements. Then what is the need for using a throw catch block? Awesome question. Anyone who would like to answer this? See, I'll tell you. Ayush, the funda is very simple. Obviously, you can implement the same thing using try and catch block. This particular thing you can implement using a try catch block. Let's suppose I have a number. A very common example, I have a number and I'm going to divide that number by 0. So there are two things to it. If I try to divide the number by 0, it is not mathematically possible, right? Is it? It's not. So in that case, what happens is my compiler will throw an error to me saying that you cannot divide by zero. It will be some uh, mathematical arithmetic error that you will get. But if you want to handle it yourself, see, as I'm telling you, try catch is not a compulsion, but it is a good to have feature. If you're using try and catch block, you can explicitly tell if this error comes out, what do you need to print, what do you need to show yourself, right? As simple as that. So that's why you have a try and catch block, so such that your program does not stop, right? Your program does not stop. If you want to divide it with zero, your program will terminate. It will terminate. It will not execute. But if you're using a try block and throw and try and catch block, if you divide number by zero and if the conditions are not met, it will skip that condition and it will move to the other block. As simple as that. Your program will not terminate. It will keep on running because you have done it in try block. You're explicitly saying to the compiler, hey, please try it out. If it does not work, don't stop the program, just keep on trying out the new logic that I've written in my code. It could be anything. Okay, index out of bound to overcome this. You see multiple things, right? Multiple things. It is not the only thing. Multiple things are there. Okay. Anyways, so let's now move to the project part of it, right? We'll be okay. So in this project part of it, we'll be building something called as a book management system, right? Now in this book management system, you'll have plenty of options, right? And what do I mean by plenty of options? Let's suppose you are a database admin at a company, right? Or let's suppose usko bhi chodo, right? Leave it at. Let's suppose you are working in a library. You are the owner of a library, right? A library has a lot of books, and let's suppose you're designing a software. You're designing a software to keep a track of all the books. By track, I mean that if we have a new book, you can add a book to your database. If I want to display all the books, I have an option to display. I have a feature to display the book. I have a feature to search any book. Let's suppose I want to search a book, because each let's suppose we give each book a unique ID to it. We can search a book by its ID and things like that. So we'll try to implement these features to add a book in the database, to display all the books that, let's suppose if I come to you, I say that, hey, just tell me what all books you have in the library. You'll not stand up and search for each and every book, right? You'll not. What if you have a software in which we have a track of all the books? You can just hand me over that piece of information, the piece of, let's suppose, a PDF file which has all the information of the books. Another situation that, hey, I come to you and I want let's suppose a Harry Potter book, right? I want to search that book. That, let's suppose a student comes to me and he says that, sir, hey, I'm not able to find that Harry Potter book. Do you even have it in a library? I'll not go and look around for that book, right? What I'll do here is I'll search in my database. I'll add a functionality to search the Harry Potter book, we can have an ID. Let's suppose it has an ID of 33, or maybe any random number I'm giving it, and I'll check, okay, by ID number 33, if this book is available, I'll say, yeah, it is available, you can lend it. I can lend it to you for a week. If it is not, that sorry, then I might add it in my database, right? As simple as that. That's what we are going to implement, right? Okay. So are we excited? Are we excited for this kind of project? Right? All right. So that being said, let's move on to the project. What I'll do is I'll code. I'll maybe I'll code a functionality, right? In what I'll do is when I'll code, I'll not stop in between. I'll add a functionality to it. I'll explain you that functionality, then I'll move ahead. Because if I explain if I explain the line by line code to you, then it might uh, be a little time consuming, and we might run out of time. So I'll make a whole function, a whole new function, then I'll stop, I'll explain the code, and I'll move ahead, right? And it's good that you ask if you have some doubts in between when I'm in the explaining period. Don't ask doubts once I'm coding, because I'll not be able to see the screen because I'm in the coding part of it. I have the chat box, but I'll be focused on writing code. Although I'll see what message you're typing, but I'll be responding it once I'm done with a single functionality, right? That makes sense? Okay. So now let's start. So see, what I'm thinking here is, let me draw a skeleton of it, right? See, we might have a class. Let's suppose we can name it a book. And what I think is, if we have a book, right, it can have a distinguished feature, right? It can have name. A book can have name. We can give it an author name, and what else? I think these two are enough. Or we can also give it an ID, because it might be, because a book can have a same name. Let's suppose I want to search for Harry Potter part 1, part 2. I don't write the part, I search for Harry Potter, so multiple books will come to me. But if I give a book a unique ID, then I can search it by an ID, because each book will only have a unique ID attached to it, right? As simple as that. So I'll make a class called as book. In this book, as I told you, I'll have three attributes. One will be the ID, the second one would be the title, the third one would be the author, right? This would be three attributes in my class book, right? Then after this book, what I'm thinking is, once I make this class book, I can have another class. Maybe I can name it lib or library, which will have all the functionalities to add a book. I'll have three functionalities to add a book. What was the other one? To display a book, and to search for a book, right? To search for a book. And then I'll have, okay, that's all I need to have only two classes for that. And in my int main function, I'll make objects of this class to add details to it, to add books, to search for books, and to display the books that I have, right? Is the structure clear to you? What will be having? Yeah, searching a book. Yeah, exactly. So we'll be having searching a book functionality. Obviously, we'll be searching it by an ID, because each book has a unique ID. We'll give each book a unique ID, and that's all. Chalo, theek hai. Awesome. Clear till this part. Okay. Now it's actually the time of searching a book. Yes, sir. Clear. Okay. Okay. Now it's the time to implement the code, right? So, as I said, I'll come to the VS Code, and let me make a new folder by the name of project. So project dot C++. I'll make a basic boilerplate. Right now, as I told you, first and first I'll do is I'll include a header file, which is a common header file, right? Which is that is bits file. We all know that, right? So I'll include hashtag bits slash stdc++.h. Okay. Okay. Now, first we make a class that is book. So I'll make a class book, right? And I told you it'll have three things, right? And the three things I can keep as public. I don't have any issue with it, right? First thing is I'll have an ID. The second thing was the author name or the title name, right? Both the things. So string title, it is already giving us this GitHub Copilot is very smart, right? And string, maybe an author, right? Acha. Now what I'll do here is, so I'll leave it here for now. We'll see if you want to add some more things into this, but for now I'll leave it up till here only. The next thing is I'll make another class called as library. Okay, and so let's keep it public. No, now just tell me. Vector opportunity. What I'm thinking is, see, I need to store books, right? This is a book, let's suppose. So a question to all of you, because books can be unlimited. Let's suppose I'm giving you a hint, right? I'll ask you a question. Let's suppose I have 10 books. Now I suddenly see that, okay, the number of books that I have is very less to my competitor. I have a competitor library which has 20 books, and I need to increase the number of books. So, okay, I'll physically, what I'll do is I'll buy the books, I'll keep it in the shelf. But how do you think, because I've already have a fixed size of 10, now I need to increase the size to 20, and later on, let's suppose the size will increase to 30, 40, 50. So what, according to you, would be the most appropriate data structure, to store this value? Anyone? I need to store multiple values, and that has to be dynamic. We just did that yesterday. What do you think would be the most appropriate data structure to store the value? What? Anyone? Let's see who gets that thing correctly. Okay, I have an answer. Anyone else? We can use vector. We can use a list. Okay, Vedant says we can use a list. Yep. Okay. Anyone else? Awesome. See, we can use both a vector as well as a list. Right. List is nothing but a linked list. We have not covered linked list. That's a part of advanced DSA, but it is again a data structure. We have done vectors. So what I'll do is we'll use a vector here to store the books. We'll use a vector to store the books. We can exactly right. Shiva Kumar, I think, right? We can also use a map. That would also do a job. Okay, if you want to, you can also use a map. But I will personally try to use a vector here because it gives me the ease of fetching all the things appropriately, and I think that it'll be easier for us to implement using a vector. We can use a map, right? Obviously we can, but I would recommend to use a vector. You guys can try it implement it using a map. Chalo, okay. Now let me come to the code. Okay. I'll say, hey, just do one thing. Declare me a vector. Acha. Now you tell me vector of which type, because a vector can have multiple types, right? Which vector type which data type do you want to store in a vector? Now this is very tricky, because if I have a vector, because I need to store three things, right? One is the ID, then we have a book. Oh, sorry. Then we have an author. Then we have the name. So what do you think? What do you think? Do we need as a data type? Yes, says 2D vector. So yes, if I use a 2D vector, you are close. You are close. But if I use a 2D vector like this, let's suppose. So how will this justify? Let's suppose I have a book which has an ID 33, and where will I store the name? Because if I have a 2D vector, I can either have it of an int type or a string type. And I cannot have it of both the types. So very important concept. We need to have a data type that can store both or all the three things: the ID, the author, and the name. So I'm talking about something like if you have a vector here, you have a vector. It is not int, it is not char, it is not string. A vector which can store all the three values at an index. Being ID, being name, and the author. Okay? And that's where a concept called as templates come into picture. Templates are nothing but your own defined structure. We need template in cases where we need to customize the data types. We want to have a mixture of integers, of strings, of characters, of arrays. Then we use something called as templates. Right? So template is nothing but your own customized data type. Now, see, I already have a class book, right? So can I just make a vector of type book? I think it is capital, yeah, of type book, and maybe I can name it books. This book will have all the three features. Now, नहीं 2D vector. We don't even need 2D vectors, 3D vectors, 1D vector. Now we have the exact same template that we need. Awesome. Now, after this, first feature, I want to add a book. So I'll say, hey, just do one thing, just add a book. Right? Now, to add a book, I would need three things, right? ID, string, and title. I'll say just take an ID. Just take a string by the name and call it name. Or a better name would be to make it title, book title. And a string for author. Right? And in this vector, right? In this vector, I'll say just push it. So I'll say, what's the vector name? It's books. So I'll say books dot push underscore back. Now, what do I need to push? That is the most important. Acha. I told you, right? If you're declaring a class, if we have a class and we have an object and we make an object out of it. So what is the first instance that will be called? That would be a constructor. So let's do one thing. Let's make a constructor first. And how do we make a constructor? Just by the name of same class. So I'll say book. Acha. In the previous class, we did a default constructor. Default constructor means that it will not accept any parameters. This time we'll be using parameterized constructors. It is nothing rocket science. Just your constructor will accept some values when the object will be initialized. I'll first write it and then I'll explain you the code. I'll say int IDs Then I'll say string titles, and then I'll say string authors, right? Then I'll say whatever the ID is, just replace it by the IDs. Whatever the title is, replace it by the titles. Whatever the author is, just replace it by the authors. Now what I have done is, see, now what I need to push it, right? Now I can simply say just call the class book, and this ID I'll give as a user. Let's suppose I give it an ID of 33. I'll enter the ID. I'll give it title, and most important thing, I'll give it an author. And once I do that, I'll maybe want to print a message. So I'll just say cout book added successfully. And this is what my add function is about. Now I'll explain what that exactly means. Right. So okay. So I have a class book, I have a class library. This is nothing but a constructor which has parameters. I told you, right? We discussed what parameters are, what constructors are in the function classes, remember? This is a constructor. Constructor is nothing but a first instance that is called once your object is created. So see, whenever I'll create an object in the int main, right? Right? And what I want that once I create an object, let's suppose I name it library A, and in A I want to add a book. So I'll say a dot add book. Now, as soon as I call this, as soon as I make this object library A, and as soon as I call a dot add book, my constructor would be called, right? We saw yesterday, right? First thing what happens is constructor gets called. Now I'll say, okay, if you're calling the constructor, just send this ID and send this name and send this author name also with it. So you can say do tir ek nishan. I'm creating a constructor, and with that I'm sending these three values as it is. So these three values will come in ID, title, and authors, and I'll set it in ID, title, and author. And this is the same ID, title, and author which I have in my class, book class, right? I made it, right? Int ID, then I made title, then I made author. So now my ID, title, and author will have ID, title, and the author which the user will give me. And that is only possible because in the constructor only I'm sending these values. I'm saying, okay, whenever I make an object, just provide me these three values, and I'll make an object, I'll make the system, I'll be able to add that book. This makes sense to you or not? Any doubts in this part? And what I'm doing is, again, I'm adding it to the vector. Right? So this is a vector, let's suppose, and in this vector, I'm adding a book. With this book has three things: ID, name or the title, and the author. Understood? Clear? Okay. Now let's move ahead. Okay. So the add functionality is clear. How we are going to add a book. Now, let's suppose I've already added a book, and I want to display how many books I have. Right? Again, I come to you as you are, let's suppose, a librarian. I'll come to you. I'll say, just tell me all the books that you have. So I'll make a function. I'll say void, just display. I'll say display books. Now in this, I'll make a function. I'll just say function needs to be like this. Now I'll make a function. I'll say, see, first thing first is the edge case, right? If I don't have any books, if books, we have a method to check if the vector is empty, and that is called as dot empty. If books is empty, right? If it is true, just print that hey, we don't have any books. I'll just say no books found, right? And if there are books, and after that just return, right? And if there are books, so what I need to do, I need to loop in my vector and print out all the books, right? So yesterday we did something called as an iterator. I hope you all remember that, right? Iterator. Iterators, what are iterators? Iterators are nothing but just pointers that point to the beginning, to your object or your data structure, and go till the end. Now, because we are not using integers, this is not a default vector. The data type is book. It is a template. So again, we cannot use a normal loop, right? We have to use iterators. That's what we discussed yesterday. If we have a complex structure, we have to use iterators, because loop I cannot loop, right? Loop मैं क्या लिखूंगा? Int I equals to 0, I less than size. But what is 0 here? There is no 0. There's no indexes. It is book only, right? So I have to use an iterator. Now I'll tell you another way to use an iterator. Yesterday we discussed a long method. Today we also will discuss a method that is called as an auto iterator. It's very simple. You'll get that. So I'll say if you have a book in your system, just make an iterator, right? And that will be an auto iterator. So I'll say for. This time you can use uh, int, or let's use const. Const is something that will never change, right? Once it is assigned in value. I'll use an auto iterator, and maybe let's suppose I'll use a book, because it is a I want to call an iterator book, and I want to loop it around. That will loop into my books vector. Right? This is the syntax, and if I have an array, I'll just see out what? I'll just see out book.id. I want to set multiple things. So I'll say, okay, I'll say book ID is books.id. Let's suppose I want to display the title as well. So what I'll do is, let me make a comma here, and I'll say title. Title is what? It was book.title, right? If I'm not wrong, title. Book.title. Then it was author. So I'll again have a comma. I'll say authors, and here, just give me a second. And here I'll print out book dot, what was it? I just copy the spelling from here actually. Book dot author, right? And this is very important. I'll just present ender, right? So this is nothing but if I have any books, so see if the books array if the book vector is empty, I'll not do anything. I'll just say hey, no books found, right? Now if there are books, I'll just loop around my vector and print each book every time. I'm printing the ID, the title, and the author, right? How to get the suggestions? So you have something called as GitHub Copilot. If you want to, you can download GitHub Copilot and use that. So it will give you suggestions. It is basically an intelligent generative AI tool that knows what you're writing and will give you suggestions, right? You can do that. Okay, so we have done display the books. We have done adding a book. Now, the last functionality was to search a book. Okay. This will be similar to display a book, right? So I'll say void search a book, right? Now, to search a book, as I told you, right, to search a book, I have to give it an ID. I need to tell, I either need to tell a name, because let's suppose I come to you, I need to search a book, I'll need to tell you, right, which book I need to search. You can give name, you can give author name, because it is not good to give author name, because multiple same author can have multiple books, so it will not make much sense. The name could also be same. Let's suppose you give Harry Potter, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, any version. The best thing is to give an ID, because an ID will be unique to each and every book. So just take an ID, and I'll loop around. Again, I'll have an auto constructor. I'll say const and person, because it has to be a vector, it has to be a pointer. I'll say and vector. This time, where do I need to loop? I need to loop to the book vector. If we have a book, now I need to scan through my vector, and if my ID matches to the ID that I want to, I'll present. So I'll say if my book dot ID, if it is equal to the ID that I want to search, if it is equal, just print me that book, right? So I'll say cout book. I'll write it. I don't trust it actually. I'll write book ID. Then I'll cout book dot ID, right? So let's give the title as well. I'll say I'll have a comma. I'll have a title. I'll say book dot title, right? If you want to give author, you can also give it as well. Let me do it, and I'll say the author. Yeah, author. AUTHOR, author, and I will also give book dot author, and importantly, I'll press enter. And if I loop all over, and if I don't find any book, it might be case, right? I'm searching for a book called as John James. That does not exist in my system. So I'll say, hey, I try to search the repository, but no books were found. Book not found. As simple as that. And I will also press enter. I will also press enter. And with this, my library class is completed. I will close the class. Okay. So again, reiterating onto the methods that we made a class library method that will have a vector type book, that is this book. Okay, that is this book. It has three things: ID, title, author, a constructor. Now we have made a vector to actually store the books. We have void add books. It takes in three things: ID, title, and string. We are pushing the books. Books dot push. Yeah, pushing the books and passing it to the constructor to add it. Right, ID, title, and author, and cout books. Should display the books if the books are empty. So this is a method, so I need to do empty. I'll cout no books found and a return. If let me also put endl here. Right. If there are books, so what I'll do, I'll very smartly loop in my books vector, and I will cout books dot book dot ID, book dot title, and book dot author. Similarly for search book, I have an ID. I'll loop around the book. If my ID matches to the ID that I want to search, I'll print the ID, title, and the author. Right. Okay. And once I do that, let me just return from the function. And if there are no books found, I'll say, hey, we haven't found any book, time to return from the function. I got an error in if loops. What error is that? Just try to replicate. So void, we take void function when we don't want to return anything. We just want to print something, because see, this is a search book function, right? I don't want to return anything. I just want to have a search functionality. If you are able to get that book, just return. That's it. So any function which does not return anything is a void function. If we have any function by the name of by the, let's suppose if I write int here, then this function expects me to return an integer variable, but I don't want to, because I just need to have a void functionality. I just need to search it, right? I don't want to return anything. I think we covered this on day 3, I think, when we were covering function. Just look at it, we'll get to know. Right. Anyways, okay. Now let's actually test it out. Now, what I'll do here is I'll quickly make a library. So my class name was library. Yeah, library. Okay. And I'll make an object by the name of, चलो library नाम दे देते हैं, library. ठीक है. And as soon as I do, my constructors will get called. ठीक है. Now, let's suppose I'll give a user to enter 3 choices: to add, to delete, to add, to search, and to display, right? So let me give them choice. So I'll say int choice. You have 3 choices. Int choice, and I'll loop it around. I'll tell the user to enter till a user wants to exit. So I'll give the option for the user to exit as well. So I'll just say void true. So this will mean that keep on running the loop until and unless the user tells me to stop it. Okay. I'll say now cout add book. Okay. Now this is saying that, okay, if you want 1, if you enter 1, you can add a book. If you enter 2, you can display a book. If you enter 3, you can search a book. Right? 3 options. Now I'll tell the user to enter a choice. I'll say cn choice. Now, as said, I'll say if your choice is 1, that means you want to add a book. So I'll just say, hey, you have an int id, right? You have a string called as title. You have a string called as author, right? Now I'll tell the user to enter an ID. So a book will have a unique ID. That should be unique, right? Please enter me the ID, and I'll say, and I'll take in the ID from the user. Let's suppose user enters ID number 33, anything, right? Then I want to take the title, so it is auto completing, and I'll cn title, not ignore. I'll cn title, right? Now the third thing I want is to enter the author, cout an author name, and cn author. So I've got 3 things, right? And once I have these 3 things, what I'll do is I'll add the book into my library. So library.addBook, this function will be called, and it will add the book into my vector. As simple as that, right? This is the class that we have made. Okay, this was about adding a book. Now, if the choice is not 1, that means the choice could be 2. I'll write else if what's my battery? Yeah. Let me just connect my charger. Just give me a second. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I'll say else if. That means if, let's suppose the choice is 2. And if the choice is 2, that means I need to what? Display the book. So I'll just call a function library dot what was the function which I gave it? It was display books. So if the user want to display, just call this function out and display all the books to him or her. And if the choice is not even 1, not even 2, that means the choice will be 3. I can say else if choice if it is equal to 3. No, I need to search, right? For search, I need to have an ID. So int ID, I'll say, hey, please enter the ID that you want to search, because as we discussed, we will be searching it by ID, not by name, not by author name. Just give me the ID and just call the search method by this ID. And most importantly, if let's suppose I want to exit the program, I don't want to search, I don't want to add, I don't want to display, I'll say else. If you don't want to do anything, okay, exit, right? We have given it. Okay. Else, I'll say, obviously, if you are entering it, the choice will be 4, but still I'm doing it for double confirmation. I'll say if choice is equal to 4, just do one thing, just break out of the loop, because I did here, right? While true, that means you'll be there in the loop. So break, as simple as that. So with that, we have completed this functionalities, and it is try to test it out. Okay, now let me clear out the console. Let me see if there are any errors. We'll try to fix those as well. I'll run this code. Okay, I have an error. It says, okay, let's go one by one. Okay, on line number 36, it says that book was not declared in the scope. Let's see what that is. Okay, I think we have given it a wrong name here somewhere. Program 36, book was not declared. So on 36, we have this book. Okay, it's saying that it is not declared in the program. Oh, it is books. Sorry, it is books, right? It is books. We have to edit on books, right? This vector. I missed a S here. Okay, any other else error we see? Request must be okay. Yeah, okay. Let's check now. I think some more errors are there, but we'll see one by one. Okay, now that book error is gone, now we have an error on line number 36. Okay, line number 36. Line number 36. Line number 36. The same error on this line. Const add book. Okay, search books, right? It has an IDE and const. Oh, we missed this auto keyword. So dumb of us. We've missed this auto keyword, auto book, because it's an auto constructor. Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? So let's try. See, that's how you debug, right? You see the errors on your console, you debug, and you move ahead. Okay. Now let's see any other errors. Okay, now the our code is error free. Sir, can you see yourself? Yes, I can watch the recordings, right? Obviously. Yeah. Now we got an option to we've got 3 options to add, display, search, and exit. Right. So I want to add a book. Let's suppose I press enter. It says me to enter the ID. Let's suppose I want to enter the ID 33. Book title, I'll say Harry Potter. Book author, I'll say JK. And it says book has been added successfully. All right. Let's suppose I want to display the book that I've added, and see I've got book ID, I've got title, and I've got author. If you want, you can add a semicolon here for easier. It will be visible to you, that you can add on your own, right? I'm not adding it. Okay. Now you're able to display the books as well. Now let's try to search a book. I'll write 3 here. So enter the book ID. Remember, we gave it an ID for 33. Let's see, are we able to fetch that ID or not? So I'll write search. I want to search the ID by 33, and see, it fetched me the book called as Harry Potter by the author named J.K. Right? So that's how we have implemented it. We are able to add, display, search, and if I press 4, I'll be able to exit the program. Can you explain that auto unperson book in that loop? I didn't just get it. See, Aniket, these are called as iterators. There are two methods to declare an iterator. One method that we already did yesterday, that was the manual approach to it. Now this is a automatic approach. So according to this, we already have this functionality made. According to this, it says that okay, you don't make it manual, you just have an auto iterator. This is something which is called as an auto iterator. Auto, which is something called as an auto iterator. Right? According to this, it will automatically make an iterator for you, provided you just have to use this auto keyword. If you don't use this auto keyword, it will not have the access to the automatic iterator. That's it, it is a part of syntax to use it, because if you use manual effort, it will be a 3-line code, right? We use the double scope resolutor operator, then we make an iterator specifically by using that keyword and things like that. If you don't have this, if you don't want to, we can just use an automatic iterator. That means that the iterator will automatically be assigned. So using this keyword is very important, and it is just like any other normal loop. Is C++ has no? Yes, no. Unfortunately, not. If you want to have a GUI, you have to use things like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so that was all as far as the project was concerned. I hope you got a good hang of it, right? We got a good hang of it, and that's how we were able to make a project, and that's it for this boot camp, right? No, Ayush, I don't believe that they're important. Just practicing is the way to go. Okay. And congratulations without error. No, we had some errors in the initial part of it. Right? We had debugged it, and that's how we got it. Okay. Oh yeah, just let me just give you the GitHub link as well. Do we get the recording classes? Yes, we do. So these are all available on YouTube, right? You can any day come back and record. We have watched the recordings. CPP Bootcamp. Yeah, I'll just create a repository and we'll share you the link. Okay. Okay. Git add dot git commit -m source code included, and just push it to Git. I'll say Git push. Okay, so you would have the code here, and that's where you have all the code with device. I'll just share you the link. So I'll give it to the moderators. Maybe they'll share the link. You'll have the link in the chat box, and yeah, that's it. Okay, so okay, we are short of time, right? So let's wrap this session. Here it is, and once again, we'll oh, we already have the link, GitHub link. Chalo, okay. But that being said, I really hope you enjoyed the sessions, right? It was fun teaching you the C++ bootcamp things, and I really hope you got to learn something at least out of it, if not everything, right? Make sure to practice, make sure to code, and one day you'll be a good developer, right? Chalo. Anyways, I'll take your leave and good night. Goodbye, everyone.